Okay, we will call the meeting to order. This is the City Council regular meeting. It is June 4th, 2024, and the time is 5:31 p.m. Can we have a roll call, please?
Counselor Bosmans,
Present.
Counselor Youssef,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Yazzie,
Here.
Mayor Buell,
Here.
and Counselor Woodruff. Here.
Excellent. Item number 2, introduction of the translator.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear my audio okay? If not, please let me know.
Yes, you're good.
Just very briefly, Diego Pons here again with the CLC. We're going to use language interpretation on the Zoom call for today in English and Spanish. So simultaneous interpretation. When I finish giving the instructions, you'll see that globe icon here on the Zoom call will appear, that interpretation globe icon in the bottom right-hand corner of your computer screen. It'll say interpretation. I'll ask you to select that globe icon when it appears and to choose your preferred language. And if you're joining the call today on your cell phone or your tablet, look for the more button or the 3 dots button to select your preferred language. So as always, if you're not fully bilingual, strongly encourage you to select your preferred language. And if you're bilingual, feel free to listen to everyone in the original language. Así que buenas tardes a todos y a todas. Yo soy Diego Pons, estoy aquí hoy con el CLC. Vamos a utilizar la interpretación simultánea aquí en Zoom en inglés y en español. Cuando yo termine de dar esas instrucciones, se activa la interpretación y en ese momento se va a poder ver el icono globo de la Tierra, que era interpretación, ahí abajo en la derecha de su pantalla. Asegúrese por favor de elegir ese icono globo de la Tierra y seleccione su idioma preferido. Pero si hoy usted está asistiendo a la reunión en su celular o en su tableta, por favor busque la opción que dice More, que quiere decir más, o tal vez el botón de 3 puntos que le permitirá elegir su idioma preferido de esta otra manera. Y si usted no es completamente bilingüe, le aconsejo que elija su idioma preferido para que pueda utilizar interpretación cuando alguien está hablando en el otro idioma. Muchas gracias.
Excellent. All right. And item 3, opening remarks by mayor and council. Does anyone have any opening remarks today? We're glad you're back with us, Melissa Youssef.
It's so nice to be back. Thank you so much for allowing me to be virtual for as long as I was. It's way better to be back in person.
Okay, next item is presentations, proclamations. We have 4.1 Parks and Recreation Month proclamation. And I think Kelly will join me at the podium. Okay, here we go. Designation of July as Parks and Recreation Month. Whereas parks and recreation activities are an integral part of the communities throughout the country, including the city of Durango. And whereas parks and recreation services and programs promote health and wellness, improving the physical and mental health of people. And whereas parks and recreation promotes time spent in nature, which positively impacts cognitive performance and well-being and alleviates illnesses such as depression, attention deficit disorders, and Alzheimer's. And whereas parks and recreation services encourage physical activities by providing programs, facilities, and access to natural resources that promotes active lifestyles as well as the environmental well-being of our community. And whereas parks and recreation programming and education activities such as out-of-school programming, youth sports, and environmental education are critical to childhood development. And whereas parks and recreation increases a community's economic prosperity through increased property values, expansion of the local tax base, increased tourism, the attraction and retention of businesses, and reduced crime. And whereas the U.S. House of Representatives has designated July as Parks and Recreation Month, and whereas the city of Durango recognizes and promotes the benefits derived from parks and recreation resources. Now, therefore, be it resolved by City of Durango City Council that July is recognized as Park and Recreation Month in the city of Durango. There you go. Do you want to say a few words?
Oh, I wasn't prepared to say a few words.
Or someone who likes to talk. Oh, sorry.
Thank you all for coming, all the Parks and Recreation professionals that you see in front of you today. They work tirelessly to provide quality of life amenities and opportunities for our residents. And I couldn't be more proud of this group of individuals, and by extension, all of the rest of our full-time team and all of our part-timers and all of the citizens that also are very passionate and invested in Parks and Recreation in the city of Durango. Thank you.
Okay.
All the edge. Yeah.
Back here.
And we get the shades definitely in the center. I gotta get a tight shot of all the shades. You guys are killing me. It's awesome. You want to get a vertical too. All right, on three, 1, 2, 3. Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you.
All righty, moving on to item 5, city manager updates.
I do not have any updates for the council.
Excellent. And item 6, committee, board, and liaison reports from council. Want to start?
Yeah,
Dave?
sure.
All
Kick it
right.
off. They had kind of a shorter couple of weeks, but we had the Creative Economy Commission on the 28th of May, excuse me. We had the Animas River Trail Call for Artists, and we had 3 projects that were recommended for funding from the selection committee. There's going to be a sun sculpture around Demon Bridge, a mural project on the Santa Rita Underpass, and a nature sculpture with a shipping container on the social trails next to Nature's Oasis. So really cool projects that are going to be coming out of that call to artists, which are pretty exciting. The CEC is also working with the FLC staff and students on the economic impact study to assess the cultural and economic impacts of the grant funded projects within our community. So kind of gives that 30,000 foot view of what sort of economic prosperity are coming out of some of these projects. And then we're working on getting a map showcasing the city owned assets throughout the community. So that'll hopefully be a living document that gets updated annually. So it'd be cool to kind of get that up and running. I think somebody's already doing it currently, but just kind of fell through the wayside for now, but hopefully come back soon. And we had the application deadline for the second round of the lodger's tax arts and culture funding was on the 31st of May. So we're looking forward to reviewing those applications in June and discussing those at our next CEC meeting. So that was that meeting. I also had an opportunity to meet up with some community members regarding Vision Zero. Vision Zero, this is a bunch of, community members where we discuss what Vision Zero is and what it could mean for our community. The idea is across all departments to make our roadways safer for all, pedestrians, cyclists, and drivers alike. This help may give us some grant opportunities to make our roads safer, to hopefully eliminate roadway fatalities and serious injuries. So it's a really cool program that I was able to kind of meet with some community members regarding. And then also you spoke with the Park City leaders last week. So we got to showcase our community to theirs and how we are addressing certain issues and what's been working for us to help achieve our goals. So it was great.
Question on the map of the art assets. Because we had been working on that, I feel like, when I was on CC, and we had talked about doing that too to kind of keep track of maintenance issues on those art
Exactly.
pieces. Is that what it's
I think,
also-
well, and plus it would be help to have that be available for tourists or
Totally.
visitors
Yeah.
or locals to be able to know where those city owned assets are and be able to oh, maybe we can showcase where some of this money is going towards. And to your point too, being able to have something that's showing where these items are. So it's more easily keep track of and maintained.
Cool, awesome. Anyone else? Yes.
Okay, I was fortunate to welcome the Peace Run that came to Durango on the 25th, Saturday morning, and they presented us with a certificate of participation. But basically, the Peace Run, they actually do promote peace in the world, and I thought that was really good for the city of Durango. They haven't been here since 2020, but one of their sayings is peace does not mean the absence of war. Peace means the presence of harmony, love, oneness, and satisfaction. Peace means a flood of love in the world of family. And so they ran up A Street and then came up to the Durango Visitor Center So thank you, Cassandra Stubbs for being there to help facilitate welcoming them. And also, let's see. And thank you to Ellen, Tom, and who helped provide the podium and the AV for the Peace Run. So it was very successful, and they gave us a few handouts that I will leave with Jose. And then on the 28th, I did attend the Engage Durango CIP meeting at the library. And unfortunately, I got the time wrong and I came at 5:30 instead of 5. But I thought it was very fruitful for me to be there, and I got the chance to talk to some of the residents about some of these projects. So I was glad I went, and that was about it.
Yes. Okay, on the 24th, I attended the Downtown Clean Day, which is in partnership with the city, the chamber, and BID. And so as you're walking down 7th to College, on the left-hand side of the road, you can see all the beautiful pieces of concrete I swept. It's gorgeous because I did that. But no, it was a great effort by downtown to get it ready for the summer. And then on the same day, I spoke at the DHS graduation where almost 300 students walked and graduated. It was super special to see those students accomplish that milestone. And our MIAC president, Ethan McGinnis, gave the student speech, and he was amazing. He did such a great job. So yeah, everyone laughed and he was amazing. Yeah. May 30th, the Park City City Tour. I welcomed them. It was a great day of collaboration between two cities that have some similar issues. And then on May 30th, I spoke at the Adult Education Center GED graduation where they had 13 graduates from different walks of life, which was awesome. And I think their stories and like some of the things that they've been through really shone through in that ceremony. And so it was great to be a part of that too. So that was my last couple weeks. All right. Public comment on agenda items only. Item 7. Play the tape.
Public comment is encouraged on specific items published on tonight's agenda. These items will be announced by the mayor. Public comments on non-agenda items come later in the meeting. Please note, you must sign up prior to the mayor calling the item on the agenda. Signing up after the item is called will result in your name not being called to speak. Please begin your comments by stating your full name, the agenda item you intend to speak on, and if you are a resident of the city of Durango. Make your comments directly to the council. Do not expect a response from the council or staff. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per person, unless modified by the council. Unused time is not transferable to other speakers. Comments must be specific to city matters on tonight's agenda. Profanity, hate speech, derogatory remarks, speech unrelated to published agenda matters, or other speech that is disruptive to the meeting will be ruled out of order by the chair, and any remaining time will be forfeited by the speaker. Exceeding the time limit infringes on the rights of others and is out of order. Only a majority vote of the council can modify time limits.
Okay. Have anyone signed up for public comment?
Thank you, Mayor. And there has been no signups for items 8, 9, or 11.
Excellent. All right, moving right along. I did also forget to mention I had council hours today, office hours today, and I had like 7 people come. Yeah, it was busy. We talked about La Posta. We talked about increasing minimum wage. We talked about the new hotel over by like Espacho area. We talked about youth preventative services, and I don't know, lots of things. It was fun. Yes, good times. All right, now item 8, consent agenda. May we have a reading of the consent agenda?
Thank you, Mayor. There are no items under approval of meeting minutes. And under 8.2, final reading of ordinances, there's 8.2.1, which is final reading of ordinance 2024-7 for an easement for La Plata Electric Association to service the Durango-La Plata County Airport. That's submitted by Community Development. And under item 8.2.2, it's final reading of ordinance 2024-8 for land use and development code text amendments regarding minor updates to floodplain program and other code provisions submitted by community development. There are no items under adoption of resolutions by consent, no items under approval of other administrative items, no items under land use and development action items, and no items under requests for public hearing.
Excellent, thank you. Any counselor want to remove an item or make a motion?
I move to approve the consent agenda as written.
Second.
Excellent. Roll call?
Counselor Woodruff,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Yazzie,
Yes.
Counselor Bosman's,
Yes.
Mayor Buell,
Yes.
and Counselor Youssef.
Yes.
Okay, that takes us to item 10, land use and development. Item 10.1, a public hearing and first reading of an ordinance for an easement for Clear Networks to service the Durango La Plata County Airport. Community development.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Tyler Michael. I'm one of the new planners in community development. Look forward to working with you and meeting you all in person. And the item I'm bringing before you tonight is a public hearing and first reading of an ordinance for a fiber optic utility line at Durango La Plata Airport. We're getting there.
Welcome to council. It's nice to meet you. Trying to, move forward this awkward pause here. Yeah.
Gap. All right. And it should be mentioned that this ordinance is compatible with the updated strategic plan goal of reliable infrastructure and community connectivity. Oh, and I've got the control here. There it goes. Okay. As I mentioned, this is the first reading of the ordinance proposing this utility easement by Clear Networks at Durango La Plata Airport. You'll notice that the mission, vision, and values have been updated to reflect those that were adopted with the recent strategic plan updates. As previously mentioned, this particular item is compatible most specifically with the goal of reliable infrastructure and community connectivity. Here's a context map showing where the proposed easement is being proposed to be located. It begins roughly 350 feet south of the southern passenger parking lot and runs generally in a south-southwest direction, terminating at the west corner of the AV flight building at the airport. More zoomed in specific exhibit of the proposed easement location. It's going to include fiber optic cables and lines and other equipment to provide fiber optic internet service. This project will expand and update existing utility infrastructure at the airport. The timeline for this project is the first hearing and first reading of the ordinance today on June 4th, and the final reading of this ordinance on June 18th. To date, no advance public comment has been received regarding this agenda item, and staff's recommended motion is to approve the first reading of ordinance 2024-XX to create a Clear Networks utility easement at the Durango La Plata County Airport.
Perfect. You'd leave it there. So we have that. That'd be awesome. Okay. I'm going to open the public hearing. Is there anyone signed up for 11 or 10.1?
So technically you can just
No.
get a motion, a second, take public comment, and that'll satisfy the public hearing.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, you're good.
All right.
Oh, yes. Go ahead.
I move to approve the first reading of an ordinance for an easement for Clear Networks to service the Durango La Plata County Airport.
Do
Seconds.
we need the public? Okay. Excellent. All right, public comment.
And Mayor, there has, no one has signed up to speak under this item.
Perfect. Council discussion or close, yeah, we don't need to.
Internet access, connectivity be available for other businesses, organizations near the airport?
I don't know the answer. Yeah, I know it is feeding the AV flight building, but I don't know if businesses at the airport are also benefiting from the fiber optic service being proposed by this easement. Oh,
Tony always knows the answer.
Tony Vicari, Airport Director. So this originated from a request from AvFlight. As was mentioned prior, they're the fixed based operator at the airport. So they provide the general aviation or private aircraft terminal services at the airport. So this is essentially just extending a fiber optic line from its existing point of demarcation at the La Plata County radar station, which will be beginning installation in July, down further south to the FBO. In terms of the future, this actually has some significant potential benefits for the airport because this is going to move fiber optic substantially closer to our aircraft rescue, firefighting, and maintenance facilities. And you can likely anticipate a proposed 2025 capital project from the airport to potentially extend this fiber optic line from the current easement demarc further south to our facilities. So there's some potential interaction and positivity from what this is just a private development to extend fiber to a private entity at the airport, but we think we'll be able to pony off of that and create a good opportunity for us in the future.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Any other council discussion? All right, can we have a vote?
Mayor Pro Tem Yazzie,
Yes.
Counselor Youssef,
Yes.
Counselor Woodruff,
Yes.
Counselor Bosman's,
Yes.
and Mayor Buell.
Yes. All right, 10.2, public hearing and first reading of an ordinance for the sale of city-owned property located at 166 East 33rd Street for conveyance of real property. Eva.
Right slides. Okay, it's hard to see this. Eva Henson, Housing Innovation Manager, here this evening regarding an ordinance for the conveyance of real property located at 166 East 33rd Street. This aligns with our new strategic objective for innovative housing and economic development. Just for council, again, for some illustration as well for the public, this is also known as Animas City Park Overlook Townhomes Community. It's located right off of East 33rd Street near 32nd Street and Main Avenue. Provides walkability for this unit to the park nearby, the river trail access, and of course, the grocery store, to name a few amenities nearby. For an overview, as the staff report outlined in your packet, City Council approved a resolution in April authorizing the acquisition and purchase of Unit 501 in the Animas City Park Overlook Townhomes Community for a purchase price of $547,000. Staff coordinated with Homes Fund, and 50 households were notified via email correspondence that included 17 from the previous lottery back in December of 2022, and 33 additional households from Homes Fund's interested wait list. Also, Homes Fund held a home buyer education class on May 11th with over 40 attendees, and similar information was also shared about the unit. I'm pleased to share with you this evening that Homes Fund has approved a qualified household that earns at or below 125% area median income, is pre-approved by a local lender, as well as meeting all of the criteria outlined in the income deed restriction at a sale price of $399,999, similar to the other 4 units that were sold with the same income deed restriction in that development. The acquisition and resale of the Unit 501 aims to advance the city's housing goals by development of a variety of housing opportunities and innovative solutions to support a multi-generational and mixed income community. This creates a replicable model for future opportunities and creates an example of an innovative approach to create solutions for local workforce with long-term affordability goals. Few pictures inside the unit, because you probably haven't seen those before. It is a 2-bedroom, 2.5 bath. It's approximately 1,250 square feet. It is 2 stories, so it does have stairs. It also has a washer and dryer, and other appliances will be included in the sale. It includes a assigned surface parking space. And again, all of those appliances will come with the unit so that the buyer won't have to pre-purchase any of those. Timeline before you, staff has presented to City Council at several public meetings since March. We've been here a few times before council. And tonight it's the first reading of the ordinance for conveyance and sale of the unit. And next steps will be routing the real estate contract to the city manager's office for signatures. Final reading of the ordinance would take place at your next regular meeting on June 19th. And the qualified household desires to purchase and close on the unit in mid to late July. This aligns with the City Charter, Article 2, Section 11D, conveying or leasing or authorizing the conveyance or lease of any real property of the city must be done by ordinance. So we're doing that this evening before you. No advanced public comment has been received prior to this meeting, and I'll leave the recommended motion for the hearing.
Do I have a motion?
I move to approve ordinance O 2024 dash. Do we have a ordinance number yet?
Next meeting, okay.
XX to sell city-owned property located at 166 East 33rd Street per City Charter, Article 2, Section 11D, conveyance of real property.
Second. Perfect.
All right, council discussion or public comment.
And Mayor, no one has signed up to speak for this item.
Okay, council discussion.
Yeah, I'll make a quick summary here, if that's okay. And maybe Eva, you can confirm if I understand everything correct. This was a 22 or 24 unit development that fell under the fair share ordinance with a fee in lieu of about 300,000, I think, or a requirement to build affordable housing. And then the affordable units were built. And the city spent $600,000 in grants and loans through the URA on this Animas City Park Overlook townhome development. I'm not sure if there were additional waived fee or anything, but we ended up getting in the beginning 4 long-term workforce units, which is the deed restricted ones, and 6 resident occupancy units. So fast forward a little bit, the deed restricted units were sold. Just not if I'm wrong, yeah, because I'm just trying to really summarize what I understand. The 4 deed restricted units were sold, but the resident occupancy units were not. And instead one of those initially planned resident occupancy units, the city acquired that unit or one of those units for market rate, $550,000. And we're currently looking at a resolution, or is it a resolution ordinance? To sell that unit that we bought for $550 for $400. So we're basically investing, or taking a loss, but we're investing $150,000 to get another deed restricted unit in our portfolio, which would make it 5. Is that so far correct?
I might help with a little bit of clarification and correction on some of that. It is a 22 townhome development. So I think you had stated maybe 22 or 24. Originally, there was an agreement. Fair share did apply because it was more than 4 or more units. It is a special reimbursement structure and public-private partnership. So the developer paid the fee in lieu amount, which was right around $337,600-ish dollars, potentially. And so that complied with fair share. That also allowed the opportunity to creatively come up with the URA, with the plan and the partnership to invest additional monies to create the 4 income deed restricted and the 6 light workforce structure that had incentives tied to it, along with delivering those units within the project. The 4 income units, similar to this unit, did sell and were secured by qualified households. There were challenges in getting the workforce units due to the changes from 2022 into 23 and 24 with the very high interest rates. And the workforce incentive of $10,000 a unit was not enough to solidify all of the workforce, but 3 out of the 6 were secured. And an additional, a 4th unit was in phase 2. So as the staff report identified, this was one of those units that we actually strategically, proactively secured to put an income deed restricted unit restriction designation on it and not the light workforce.
I
I
really
think-
appreciate that clarity there. That's,
Okay. It's a
So-
lot to cover.
so I think that's great. That's a very good background. I'm really impressed with your knowledge of the exact numbers. That's good. So it seems like with this acquisition and the sale of this last unit, the city has taken a strategic approach to buy a market, but it will apply to others probably, a market rate property, and then sell it for a lower cost to put the deed restriction on and add deed restricted housing. And I think the income limits were mentioned. So I guess I'll finish with the question. How many deed restricted units are there now in city limits? And to clarify the question, does it include any, beside the city and the Homes Fund, any units from the Habitat or the VOA or any other organization that owns deed restricted unit? I'm not sure if you have an answer
I
to that.
would like to be able to probably come back to you with an answer on that, if that's okay. That's a little more in depth than I was prepared for this evening with this particular, but staff could follow up with you on a more in-depth analysis on our actual inventory and landscape within the city limits.
No,
you,
it's good. I
if that's
appreciate, I will support this because the decision was already made to buy the property and this is the selling, so this is the closing of the loop. So I appreciate what you do and your explanations.
Any other comments?
Can you tell us what work this individual will be doing locally?
Sure. They are actually in local government sector.
Okay. And it sounds like there was a lot of people at the meeting. I think you said 40 people. were
There
in
were
attendance?
over 40 attendees for their homebuyer education class that was actually held in Durango on
Great.
May 11th. That was actually probably a larger turnout than they've seen in the past. I think they usually have around 20 to 25 attendees. And they periodically take those homebuyer education classes throughout the region. So they're in Montezuma County, they're in Archuleta County, they attend Bayfield, Ignacio, and this one was hosted actually in Durango.
Were there more than one interested parties in this unit?
I think there were more than one interested. Unfortunately, due to the interest rates currently at 7.25%
Yeah.
and a variety of other factors that may go into people's incomes and eligibility and also their current housing situations may have changed. I think we saw that with the lottery list, where we originally had over 50 folks in the lottery. And it whittled down to around 17. So there were folks interested. I don't necessarily think they may have qualified.
Uh-huh.
This particular qualified household met all of the application criteria, submitted timely and efficiently all of the information that they needed to be pre-approved by Homes Fund, as well as having a pre-approved lender letter. So they
Wonderful.
met the boxes.
So high level, just generally, are you glad that we did this type of project? And did you find it beneficial for our community?
I do find it beneficial, and I do think this is a successful model. Though we had some trials and tribulations, I think those learning lessons help inform how we move forward, right? We have successes, we have best practices. Other communities are certainly looking at current housing stock and market and injecting funding and buying down units, putting deed restrictions on them and reselling them. So I think we've created another opportunity and option for other, developments as we look forward, aside from fair share.
Wonderful.
Okay.
Thank you so much. And the money to support this program came from, was it ARPA funds?
Yes, we actually have the opportunity to classify this as American Rescue Plan Act monies. It does meet the criteria for that use.
Wonderful. Thank you. I was just wondering about future funding sources for this type of project. So thank you.
All right, anything else? Okay, vote please.
Counselor Bosman's,
Yes.
Mayor Buell,
Yes.
Counselor Woodruff,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Yazzie,
Yes.
and Counselor Youssef.
Yes.
All right, moving along, 10.3, a resolution to approve the South Fork Starbucks preliminary development plan. We get the whole community development department. It's a new
All of us,
person.
almost. Good evening, Mark Williams, Community Development Department, and As Mayor Buell said, this is a public hearing for the South Fork Starbucks preliminary development plan. It's located at 29 Copper Court in the South Fork district, which it's pretty big. It's just west of Mercy Hospital. It's 120 acres. It was annexed into the city about a dozen years ago. And the site we're looking at today is on that leg that sticks out to the west or to the left in the green. It's next to a future Hilton Hotel, which will come pretty soon to council as well for review. So it's on Wilson Gulch Drive on a couple of new cul-de-sacs that have been built within the last couple of years. So the Starbucks itself will be a 2,200 square foot building approximately with an outdoor patio. It's on a lot that's a little bit less than an acre. They've got enough parking and bicycle parking as well. One of the things that we emphasize, especially in this area, which doesn't have a lot of development, is that lighting is kept to 3,000 kelvins or less. That's a rating of the intensity of the light. So a bright white light would be a higher number. 3,000 is softer, a little bit yellower, but it's still functional. So that's something we've been requiring out there to meet our dark skies commitments. And then we also wanted to have direct pedestrian connections from the Starbucks to the hotel that's going to go into the northeast and then south to Copper Court. So here's the site plan. This is Copper Court here to the south. This is the pedestrian connection I was referring to. So it'll move people who are walking down there through the site and across to, we actually will have the Hilton will build the connection on the property right here. So it'll go straight into their hotel. And then we have other requirements for stacking for cars that are in the drive-through. And so this complies with all of our stacking requirements, parking requirements, site plan requirements in general. And that's just a red dash line of the pedestrian path through the site. One of the issues that was the most discussed issue at the Community Development Commission meeting was the design of the building. And the CDC recommended that Starbucks add this vertical, pop the roof a little bit. You can see where the Starbucks logo is at the top image. And then on the bottom image to the right. So that breaks up the roof line a little bit to add a little bit more visual interest. And then also, if you can tell where the Starbucks logo is on the bottom, there's a change in material, which is one of the criteria in our commercial design guide to mix up the materials just to break up the mass of these a little bit and add a little bit of visual interest. And so Starbucks did everything that the CDC asked them to do. And as a result, they meet all of the standards from the Land Use and Development Code, as well as the South Fork Character District Master Plan and the requirements in the Commercial Design Guide. This was held or heard at the April 22nd CDC meeting. If council approves this tonight, Starbucks will need to apply for an administrative level final plan review. And we have not received any public comments about this project. So as I said, this meets all of the city's standards, and you can see the recommendation as listed below. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you for the presentation. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve the proposed the proposed South Fork Starbucks preliminary plan development and resolution 24-XX with the findings and conditions as described in the staff report and discussed at this public hearing, and direct the applicant to submit the final plan for staff review.
Second.
Public comment?
And it looks like no one had signed up to have public comment for this item.
Perfect. And council discussion? All right, vote.
Mayor Buell,
Yes.
Councillor Youssef,
Yes.
Councillor Bosmans,
Yes.
Councillor Woodruff,
Yes.
and Mayor Pro Tem Yazi.
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you. Item 11, resolutions, consideration of adoption. 11.1, a resolution to approve the settlement of a case concerning the application of water rights filed by Patrick and Rachel Kane, specifically 23 CW 3050 in La Plata County District Court. City Attorney.
Thank you, Mayor. As is quickly becoming our tradition, this is a resolution of a water court matter that we are doing in open session instead of executive session. This is one you dealt with before. The property owners have added a second dwelling to the property. There was an agreement we earlier negotiated where their wells would replenish the water that could be affected by the water table in the Florida. This is just an expansion of that agreement because of the new dwelling on the property. And then, of course, all the full details of the settlement are in the packet.
Great. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Oh, I have to read this one out. I move to approve the resolution for the settlement of a case concerning the application of water rights filed by Patrick and Rachel Kane, specifically 23 CW 3050 in La Plata County District Court.
Second.
Council discussion?
Yeah, I have a question. Not so much about this, but there's public comment on items 8, 9, and 11, and resolutions are under 11. And we just closed the Starbucks topic, which is a resolution, but it's under 10. Is there a gap in our agenda for public comment? Was that misplaced or did I miss something?
You didn't miss anything. Item 10 is land use and development. That's kind of a special section of the agenda that I have worked with them because they work under so many different structures that affect state law or affected by state law, or there's specific land use items that change based on the things they're doing. Some of those require standalone public hearings. Some of them don't. Some of them are just done by resolution and multi-step processes. So in the development of the new agenda over the past year, we have had land use and development kind of as a standalone part of the agenda where they decide where the public comment will come.
Yeah, but there's no public comment in the agenda for item 10.
But we took it at each reading.
Okay. And then my other question is on this case. I know, even though I'm excluded from some of these discussions, there is quite a few legal cases taking place. Is there, if anybody in our community wants to get an understanding of which legal cases there are, the cost for attorneys or settlement, what would be an approach for them to take to make that visible? As you know, I filed a core request for that kind of information, and I didn't get a clear understanding of that topic. So maybe where would people be able to find this?
Well, first of all, I'm going to defer to the chair if I need to answer that question while we're discussing a completely unrelated item. I'm happy to answer that question in any form that you like, but I'm going to defer to the chair if she wants me to answer that now or at a different point during the agenda.
Let's stick to this resolution here. And then if there's something you want to bring up for under new business that you want council support on getting information or
I'll rephrase the question. How about if I want to see on this specific case, what the settlement is, if there's financial cost that we incurred as a city, what the attorney fee is. I believe we use an external attorney specialized in water rights.
Sure.
How would I go about for this specific topic?
So that specific case, the settlement agreement is attached as one of your agenda documents. If you would like to see the amount of money that the outside counsel water attorney charged for this case, that is a public record, which as a counselor, you don't have to do a public records request for, we'll just provide to you.
Okay, thank you.
any other council? Excellent. Vote.
Counselor Youssef,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Yazi,
Yes.
Counselor Woodruff,
Yes.
Mayor Buell,
Yes.
and Counselor Bosman's.
Yes.
Moving on, 11.2, a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute the purchase agreement and all related documents to finalize the purchase of Buckley Park from the Durango 9R School District. City manager.
Yes, Mayor and Council, this is the final step for the long, seems like, acquisition of Buckley Park. We've had an agreement in principle for $3 million. The council at the previous council meeting, through a budget amendment, appropriated that $3 million from the 2005 sales tax with a recommendation from the Financial Advisory Board. So we do have the funding. This purchase agreement was worked by our Assistant City Attorney, Jim Martin, in cooperation with the 9R, their attorney. And so we are ready to go to just authorize me to execute the purchase contract as well as all the closing related documents. And the school district is looking to have this closed by the end of the month.
Excellent. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Council discussion?
I think it's great that we are securing Buckley Park for our community for the long term. So thank you to all people involved.
I just want to say congratulations. It's just a big feat and it's a wonderful addition for our community. It's already been there, but it's nice to be in city hands. It's a great gathering place, public events and many more things. So I'm very happy that that went through. Thank you for your hard work on that.
You've been working for over a year on this or more. I get 2.
I got here, so it's been
Okay,
about 3.5.
longer than that.
Yeah.
So congratulations and thank you for all your hard work. All right, vote. Did you want?
Mayor Pro Tem Yazi,
Yes.
Counselor Woodruff,
Yes.
Counselor Youssef,
Yes.
Counselor Bosman's,
Yes.
and Mayor Buell.
Yes. And 11.3, a resolution to give direction regarding tax reauthorization and bond financing. Elliot, great.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Elliot Fitz, Budget Manager with the City of Durango. Slight correction on this first slide. We are now part of organizational stewardship as of the May 21st meeting. So we're here today to talk about the potential next steps and ballot timeline and some options around the 2005 reauthorization and bonding. So to cover this first, we have met, as we just said, May 21st, staff presented the initial cost estimates and funding strategies to council at the study session. And going forward, we are at the June 4th meeting now, looking for some direction on a couple of potential funding options. And yeah.
It's a little bit of an interesting one with how the resolution. My speaker on how the resolution is given. We're really just trying to make it a step-by-step process for the public and as well as the council. So there really is not a decision in regards to we're asking which one of these scenarios do you want? These are the two that the staff has seen as the two best solutions. It gives you the opportunity, not in a study session, but to ask questions. If there's a scenario in which you do not see being presented that you'd like staff to be able to take a look at, we have the opportunity to do so. And so the real part of looking at this is just it's a resolution that says if these are the two options that you would like to consider, it's a resolution just saying bring these to us on June 18th. At the June 18th meeting, it would be an option that would be selected by the council as well as direction to have staff go at the July meeting to call for a 2005 sales tax authorization. So it's a little bit what I'd call kind of a half step, but I think it's a necessary step so that we can have that ability to point to the public that there was a discussion made. Here are the two financing options that we presented to staff, have that feedback from the council, and then move forward from there.
Yep. Okay. Thank you, Jose. Don't think I can say it any better. So with that, the rest of the dates are just the required timeline to actually get something on the ballot that staff is keeping track of. And we do have a couple of built-in contingency council meetings in case we need to. But we are keeping track of those dates and making sure we're meeting those deadlines. Just as a quick recap, this is the current ballot language for the 2005 sales tax. So half of the tax does go to parks, open space, and trails. Half of the tax currently does go to the financing of the library and Florida Road. The intention is to keep that very similar as we go forward. So again, just as a reminder, half of the tax or a quarter cent does go to parks, open space, and trails. And some of the big projects out of that fund are Durango Mesa Park, land acquisition like Buckley Park that we just talked about, open space, maintenance and fire mitigation, support for community organizations, including Durango Trails, who maintain a lot of our hiking and mountain biking trails around town, parks, trails, and rec improvements and annual maintenance and other ad hoc capital projects allowable within the ballot language. And for the other half of the tax, we are looking at the police department and city hall renovation. So with the purchase of the old 9R school administration building and Big Picture High School, we are looking at renovation for new police department and city hall. Looking at the funding options for the renovation, we have narrowed down to the revenue bonds. General obligation bonds are generally related to real estate and property tax, and we don't get enough property tax to really make a meaningful dent in the bond payment that we'd have to make for this project. So we are looking at the revenue bonds, and just to quickly go through the other ones, the enterprise utility one isn't really applicable here. We aren't using an enterprise fund for this. We are talking about a reauthorization of a special use tax. And then the certificates of participation and leases is an option, but working with our financial advisor doesn't seem to be the best option for this project. But it is something that we will keep in mind in case anything doesn't work out with the revenue bonds. And more specifically on those revenue bonds. So again, we are looking at the 2005 reauthorization for payment on those if we were to go get a bond. But we would be looking at a guarantee from both the general fund and the 2005 sales tax. And we'll get into that in a little bit more detail on the next slide. Okay. So this is the first option that we're presenting, and this is a straight reauthorization and renewal of the current tax, with one minor caveat of extending the tax from a 20-year sunset to a 30-year, and that is to match the bond timeline as well. Just as the current one does, it matches a 20-year timeline. Now we're just going to match it to a 30-year bond timeline. We do estimate the project to be about $61 million and estimated bond payment $3.9 million. As we talked about in the study session, the reauthorization estimated revenue is 2.9. So we do have a little bit of a shortfall there that we would need to subsidize out of the general fund, being about $950,000. So the strengths with this proposal, there's no increase to the tax. It would sunset in accordance with the bond timeline. That is something that we heard from council, as we wanted an update on what the sunset would be. And currently the tax has been in place since 2005. It's been about 20 years. So it would not be a new tax at all to the city of Durango. Weaknesses, again, we would need to subsidize from the general fund about $950,000 annually, and it is a 30-year bond. So that is a pretty significant subsidy, excuse me. And that would require additional prioritization of general fund projects and programs. And again, we are increasing the sunset period from 20 to 30 years. Looking at that though, if we look at what the subsidy would be, that 950,000, it's about 3% of our annual sales tax revenue. So it definitely is significant, but it isn't a majority of our sales tax revenue by any means. And it's about 2% of the total general fund revenue. So the general fund does have other sources of revenue, including real estate tax, fees for service, use tax, that sort of thing. So it is significant, but it's not insurmountable. The next option that we have is actually a tax increase by increasing it 1/8 of a cent every year. I'm sorry, increasing it 1/8 of a cent for the duration of it, not every year. Yeah. And that would be just to the portion for the facilities improvements, the capital improvement projects. So we would keep a 1/4 cent for parks, open space, and trails, and then again increase to by 0.375 cents for the facilities improvements. If we were to do that, the general fund would not have to have a subsidy to support these bond payments. And we would project a $1.6 million annual increase in revenue. And again, this would be, so I guess some strengths on this. It is a dedicated tax that will cover the entire financing payment. It also sunsets in accordance with the bond timeline. And again, the tax has been in place for 20 years. Weaknesses, it is a tax increase. Again, we're projecting about $1.6 million in additional revenue to the city, and we don't take that lightly. Thinking about our business partners that we have in the community, that is a significant decision to make. And again, we are increasing the current sunset period from 20 to 30 years. And mitigating, again, we wouldn't have any general fund subsidy if we went this route. And again, if we did go this route, we wanted to show a comparison of where our sales tax rate would be in accordance with some other comparable communities. And you might remember from the study session that we looked at this graph last time, and there's actually no change in the rank for Durango if we did do the increase. We would still be in the exact same order as what was presented in the study session. And this is the potential ballot question from our bond council. And the only addition that we made from this from the study session is that we did add in that 2056 sunset period. And with that, this is our proposed resolution. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve resolution R 2024-XX, giving direction to staff at the next regular June 18th council meeting to bring to the council a possible action item for the council to direct staff to begin the process of the 2005 sales tax reauthorization process to include the two presented bond options for council discussion and decision.
I'll second.
Council discussion.
Yes, I'll start. When I read this agenda item, I thought it was very confusing because, and you provided some explanation, but it still is interesting to me to see this because we are making a resolution now from council to provide direction to city staff for a possible action item within 2 weeks. And that action item in 2 weeks is to then for council again to provide direction to begin the process, and this comes straight from the agenda, to begin the process to start the 2005 sales tax reauthorization. And you, during your presentation, you ran through the whole options in the financing part. So confusing to me. It almost seems to get council publicly stating and taking action, moving in a certain direction, which seems to be bond financing and sales tax reauthorization for the 9R building. Even though I personally am not sure if that direction was initially provided that clearly during the retreat. Given that the retreat took probably 6 hours over 2 days, and I heard before there is software that recognizes that kind of stuff, I would like to ask the city manager if council can get the transcript of the city council retreat of February 2023 to show exactly what was discussed, and so that all councilors, including the 2 councilors that were not present, they were not elected at that time, know exactly what was said and what we allegedly directed to staff. That's the first one. The second one, the cost of this project, the 9R building, is 83 million, I believe. It's not 61, even though 61 is the gap in financing that we're talking about bond financing for. The ballot language for the half cent 2005 was split. 1/4 cent going to national lands and so on, which it seems to be kept in the same use. But the other 1/4 cent was not just for the library and roads, it also included sidewalks, improvements to increase driver, pedestrian, cyclist safety. So if we eliminate all of that and put it towards the bond for the 9R building, we're basically taking away money from those initial uses. And lastly, we have a financial advisory board that covers topics like sales tax. And I would really like their involvement as well as recommendations on this whole topic, how to finance, where it should come from, what the ballot language would say. So I will abstain from this vote because I feel not only that this resolution serves no purpose, let's make it very simple, but I think we need to get the transcript of this retreat. So there's no confusion, because I think some people believe it's very clearly stated. I disagree. And I would like to have the Finance Advisory Board that we established as a council for this purpose to provide their recommendations. And I thank you for the presentation.
Other comments?
I guess I don't know about a comment, but was it the retreat in like 2023 before we were elected, or 2022?
23 is what it says.
Yes, February 2023.
So it was right before we were elected, and that's when there was. Oh, yeah.
So a little
I
bit.
think it would be
to-
very beneficial if you would know what was said.
But-
And there is transcripts.
Well, I mean, I've been a part of every conversation since, so I feel like I'm, you know, rather, and this is the council body that we have now. You know, I can't speak for what happened prior to. I just know that what we've been privy to as a body of this council, and that was my understanding was as we acquire the 9R building that we were going to start looking at the 05 reauth, and those monies were going to be towards that. So as this elected body, that was my understanding of the direction that we were going into. The previous council, I can't speak to, so I'm not going to. Thank you for exercising both of those two options.
Mhm.
Again, pardon my ignorance. If we do the sales tax reauthorization, do we also need to have a ballot initiative for a bond approval from the voters as well?
Yeah, great question. So if we go here, the potential question for the voters is kind of a combined question of one reauthorization and then kind of a sub part of that to use the half of it or whatever is decided upon as the amount for the bonding.
But one ballot initiative, but two parts to it.
Yeah.
Is there any sort of strategy of why we put both of those together instead of separating the two? Again, pardon my ignorance. I just trying to think of like, how would that look like as normal Joe voter or, you know, whomever is going to look at this and be like, that's a lot of words for one initiative.
Yeah, it is. And the strategy really is it's one question to the voters.
I mean,
yeah.
this is not a forum to start talking about strategy for voters.
Okay.
And, you know, this is getting beyond my expertise. We do have separate bond counsel. And I think Jose tried to make it very clear at the beginning here. He has to have some formal direction for you guys to present formal options for those attorneys then to consider and give you legal advice on. So, and this is why we were so cautious about the study session. This is a very, very, very easy place to put the cart before the horse. I've reviewed Jose's step-by-step plan with the resolutions, getting direction from you guys. And I know as politicians, you want to get to the end because the voters are asking you about it, but we have to do it in the way that we're doing it now. So talking about strategy or why things might be worded a certain way would kind of be inappropriate at this point. And I would want bond counsel, outside counsel, to weigh in on that with you guys before you had any discussion about strategy.
Great. Thank you. Thank you.
Yep.
My comment would be, you know, the Measure 2A 2005, sorry, my voice is a little bit hoarse. You know, the language here is pretty clear and straight. And I would have just left out like, you know, sidewalk, bicycle safety, and made it more general in what we're providing as a new building with complete facilities, something like that. As long as the language is more plain without varied description, that would be my suggestion.
Okay.
But thank you for bringing this forward to us. And I do think going out 30 years is a good idea because the inflation factor, you know, due to a lot of shortages and COVID and so forth, you know, I think that's a good idea. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
I got a couple things I can put on there. One thing, you don't actually have to see the transcript of the retreat. If you go to the study session, March 21st, 2023, Counselor Bosman's, you were president. There's an agenda backup document that talks about follow-up from city council retreat. If you look at the item on there, even on the agenda backup document, it says facilities option A, funded by the renewal of the quarter of the 2005 sales tax. The agenda packet clearly shows the retreat follow-up outcomes presentation that was also presented. On that slide, you will find that it has facility needs option A, retreat outcome pursue option A with the renewal of 1Q 05 sales tax for funding. So not only at the retreat was it discussed, but we actually had an item afterwards so that we met with council to go over the outcomes of the retreat specifically. So that's there. On the sidewalks, on that question that Councilor Bosman's raised, we actually don't fund any sidewalks improvements from his sales tax. If the council remembers, this was 2005 and 2015. We passed another sales tax, and in 2019, we passed another sales tax for streets, and then in 2015, multimodal. So those are where our projects come from. So it wouldn't be any taking of funding that we're actually using right now.
Great. And then,
I have
no, it's, you had your 5 minutes. I have not talked.
Oh.
Melissa Youssef hasn't talked, and then. Okay, I have a couple questions. For, you said 948,000 annually. Now, do we anticipate that I'm assuming 30 years, we'll get more sales tax? So will it be 948,000 every year? Or do we anticipate that like caps out at some point?
Yeah, it does cap out. We did the math. It caps out in about 23 years.
Oh, so real soon. That's good.
Yeah,
Okay.
so-
And then with the 8-cent increase, you're showing 1.6 million in additional revenue. And you said that's going to this, but we only need 948,000.
Yes, and the proposed ballot language does have language to Councilor Yazzi's point of this use, but not limited to. So we would
Okay.
have opportunity for other
Perfect.
uses of those funds.
And then just to kind of talk a little bit, especially to counselors that weren't there at the retreat, that this has been a topic of conversation since the retreat, and then over and over and over again, as well as when you guys were a part of it when we did the swap with the fire station. And it's not like this has come out of nowhere and all of a sudden the, city managers just throwing this together and saying that we're going to do this bond with no council direction. Has had so much council direction and so much discussion and community involvement and community discussion that it is kind of crazy that it's getting kind of projected that way. And then I will say there was something else I was going to say and it slipped my mind. Okay.
Well, I'll have one
Wait,
comment.
well, she has
Go
to go
ahead,
first
okay.
and then we can do another 3 minutes if we want.
And if you remember what you were going to say, you can
Okay, 1 to
add
3
it,
minutes.
when I'm done. So we're giving direction to continue research at this point. I appreciate the way staff has laid this out, giving us this opportunity to have council discussion publicly about the merits of the research and the two options that you've brought forth to date. So I think it's a good, the way you've structured it with the timeline, I think is helpful. I would just throw out there that I think the, funding for a City Hall and a new police station is absolutely imperative. We've been discussing the police station needs for, I don't know how many years, a long time, but we know that it is very unsatisfactory in its current state. And we need space to grow and to do the work that they do efficiently and effectively. And additional funds for Parks and Rec. I think that those it's already a funding source, and to not have it going forward, I think would be very difficult, especially with the addition of Durango Mesa Park. And we're a growing community with growing needs and desires. We have a list a mile long of parks and recreation amenities that our community would like to see us get to. It all takes time and money. And so I appreciate these two options being brought forth by staff. And I'm in favor of continued research. Thank you.
Additional 3 minutes.
This will
She doesn't
take
have- no,
one.
I know, but
I know.
just telling for everybody.
Sorry, I'm losing my voice. Okay, I want to make it clear that when we started on council, Dave and I agree with his position that we knew we were going forward with the purchasing of the the swap with the 9R and FD and getting the city hall and PD, and that we were going to move forward with the 2005 reauthorization. At that point, we didn't exactly know what form we would do on the 2005 authorization. And so this is what we're asking for. So that's clear. And I also think that having this extra step to allow more public participation and letting our residents know clearly what our intentions are is to provide the community with a new PD city hall that's going to lead us into the future. I think it's a critical step. So thank you.
I just, maybe a couple quick questions, Elliot. Do we know with like the $948,000 that we would have to subsidize out of the general fund, like any potential cuts or like any sort of decrease in anything that we could think of?
Nothing that I could think of right off the top of my head. I mean, we would have a few years. So I mean, that's one thing in regards to this project. Funding it now doesn't mean it happens, next year. But definitely if that was the route that we wanted to go to, because we did want to give the council an option that could work without doing a tax increase, we would definitely work together and give you a recommendation on how we could make that happen.
Great, thank you. And just to clarify, it would be 3/8 of a cent in totality would be going towards CIP, and then the quarter would remain towards Parks and Rec. We're not going to split that eighth half and half, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, correct.
And then roughly if we go with the 8 cent increase, that would be roughly 700,000 a year in surplus revenue potentially.
Mhm. Yep, that is what we're forecasting.
Okay. Thank you.
I want to just say for the record, I do acknowledge and support the city hall getting an upgraded facility and the police department. And I think the 9R building is one of the options, but it's a great option for that kind of building. But I also think we need to follow a clear process and public engagement. And when we say certain things about that was agreed or direction was given, that it's clear that that was given. And if we haven't, that we have followed the process to do provide that direction. So I'll go back to the same question and I'm going to ask it very clearly to the city manager. Could I have access to a transcript of the retreat? An actual transcript?
I don't believe we have a transcript of any meetings.
The clerk's office, I know, can pull transcripts from Zoom, but I'm not sure how, when they get purged from there, or if we were running Zoom at that meeting and if it was pulled, but we can absolutely look into a transcript.
Thank you.
I remembered what I was going to ask. The 61.7 million, is that after selling City Hall and police? Okay, that's what I thought. I was
It
just
is, yeah.
concerned. And then the other topic you said perfectly. I just appreciate this extra step for more public outward, reach. And that's what we always ask you guys for. And so thank you for listening, because I think it's an important step. So I appreciate it. Great presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And let's have a vote.
Counselor Woodruff,
Yes.
Mayor Buell,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Yazi,
Yes.
Counselor Youssef,
Yes.
and Counselor Bosman's.
Abstain.
All righty, we have nothing for item 12, and next is 13, public comment on non-agenda items. Play the tape.
Public comment is encouraged on city-related matters.
encouraged on
Matters of international political
matters.
controversy,
Matt-
ideological or religious belief.
Excellent. Do we have anyone signed up?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. There's two individuals who've signed up for this public comment period. And the first individual is Shirley Gonzalez.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. My name is Shirley Gonzalez, 1 Mullis Drive. I'm also the owner of Pedal the Peaks Bike Shop here in Durango. I'm here on behalf of a group of concerned citizens under the umbrella of Bike Durango, requesting that the City Council take up a Vision Zero policy. I've had the pleasure, and rather the group has had the pleasure of meeting with Councilmember Woodruff and Councilmember Bozeman. Thank you so much for your time. And hope to get on your calendars, either at your open hours, to continue to request that the city adopt a Vision Zero policy. Vision Zero includes 5 initiatives: engineering, education, enforcement, encouragement, and evaluation to eliminate fatalities on our roadways, especially for for vulnerable road users like cyclists and pedestrians, but also drivers. And we look forward to working together as a board and of course, as your constituents, to make our roads safe for all road users. Thank you very much for your time, and I look forward to meeting with you all and advancing this agenda for our city. Thank you very much. Thank you to the manager, Madrigal, as well. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
And Mayor, the next individual is Janine Schmidt, and she's in attendance here in council chambers.
I'm addressing the AI is a concern has come up, and a false student was going to my name, like a non-existent student, with my name, exact name and social security number at Fort Lewis. And it was in the fall semester, and even over half the semester, even though Fort Lewis caught it at the beginning of the semester, they thought it was a real student. And it was only, and I kept paying my tuition bill and making sure that it was applied to the right person. Because there's actually 3 people with my same name, but one of them had my social. And to find out it's a non-existent student. And what's happened in the past is emails and texts have been sent out from me to make members of the community angry with me and things like that. And it started happening in California. And I went to everyone. I went to the police, the district attorney's office. I went to congressional offices that have case managers addressing the issue. And the Republican offices would send me to the Democrats and vice versa. And I went all over town. Here, I didn't really address it. I was just exhausted. But I did go to the police here about a month and a half ago and heard nothing back. But then finally, I was having so much phone problems. I haven't been using my phone, but they had time to address it for like 3 weeks and they did not. So, and they said they were going to call me right back. And I'm just wondering when this kind of thing can stop. And it's a rise for everybody. If this can happen to me, it's huge. And you know, if they can take a 3-second video of you and impersonate your voice and your actions, it's really dangerous. And so I'm wondering if there's a place to go where you address this because the police didn't do anything, or what am I supposed to do? And what are other people supposed to do? Is there an office that is beginning to address this type of thing?
So council doesn't respond from the dais, but we can potentially follow up.
Okay.
Maybe.
Yeah, because it's something I've addressed is government hacking. And I find government agencies, they don't want to investigate each other. That's what I deal with. And they've called, the police came to my house, 2 sheriffs, not to my friend's house, saying I called 911 3 times when I didn't. And so it's like a waste of public money. And I'm just exhausted from it. And yeah, and I'm it scares me. It scares me, the capabilities of what they do. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Mayor, there's no one else in person who's signed up to speak. And I haven't seen anyone register online either.
Okay, excellent. Moving on then. Nothing under item 14. Item 15, other new business. Any counselors have anything under new business?
Yeah, I wanted to see if there was possible council support for, nothing to decide, obviously, but maybe authorizing staff to look into what a Vision Zero community could look like. Shirley Gonzalez has had the opportunity to be on San Antonio City Council, has already propped this up in that community. So she understands not only like the background work that needs to happen, but also the benefits from grant mechanisms and what sort of levers can be pulled from both a state and a federal standpoint, to really figure out better ways to keep community, pedestrians, cyclists, and roadway users safe. So I just want to kind of propose that to council, see if there is council support to, I think multimodal transportation, sustainability could all be kind of dovetailed into this. So I just wanted to see if there was an opportunity for us to support that.
I had the pleasure of meeting with Ms. Gonzalez as well, and I definitely support it. I think it would be beneficial for us in a public meeting to have an opportunity to hear from staff as well as them about what this is about and how it can benefit our community. So, and then we still have the option to decide where we're going. So I appreciate
I think, yeah, knowing that, how much staff time it would take, is it something like, I remember when we adopted, what is it, the Climate for Council, and it was just a liaison, and we were able to adopt that and leverage the existing community. So it could be something super helpful. So benefits of it, staff time, if we have the capacity, yes, I support. You guys? Yeah.
I certainly would support it, based upon some of the traffic issues we've had between automobiles, bicycles, and pedestrians. So I think it's a good idea.
I think normally we get a motion and a second to vote, so just to make sure.
You need you need a motion to direct the staff to provide information on the Vision Zero.
I move to direct staff to look into becoming a Vision Zero community.
Can I clarify something? Is the motion not supposed to have a date and all these things? Because I know I've made several motions that were supported and they went nowhere. So it can be clarified so that Councilor Woodruff's motion meets all the check boxes, so it's actually going to be on an agenda.
Yeah, I mean, the more clarity of a motion, the easier it is for the staff to comply. So if you put a date on it, I'm sure that would be appreciated.
Maybe giving us some information back over the next 3 months.
I'd say if I could do second meeting in July, I think would help.
Okay, if that's too tight of a timeline.
I think so. I think we could get there. Sarah's on vacation, so kind of want to give her a chance to get back and then have some time.
If we want to even get to it, maybe even after summertime, I understand as well. I know we all got things that we got to get done, but I'd
maybe
say,
just by September then, if that helps.
no later
Can
than
do it then.
September.
Okay.
I think that would work for me at least.
I'll second. Council discussion. All right, vote.
Counselor Bosman's,
Yes.
Counselor Youssef,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Yazi,
Yes.
Mayor Buell,
Yes.
and Counselor Woodruff.
Yes.
Any other new business?
Yes, I have one topic. I'm going to address what the lady brought forward under public comment. I'm going to first ask support and then I'll make a motion, however that motion needs to look like. I think it would be beneficial for me as a counselor, but also for that lady to have just a short summary of anybody in our community, what their venues are for complaints at different levels. It's probably already somewhere on the internet, but just to have some clarity, what is the complaint process? What is the appealing process if it's applicable? So that way, this lady, but anybody else who has an issue in our community can have, and I have something in writing that I can say, hey, someone complains, here's your approach. And there is venues already, I know.
Do we have a policy in place already about citizen complaints or?
Policy per se, I mean, no, I mean, if somebody has a citizen complaint, usually, it goes to the department head, depending on what it is. I mean, there's several that we get, but the normal process that'll go, if it goes to my office, I'll go to the department director, we'll kind of figure out where it goes, and then they get a final resolution. But then if it's criminal, there's a whole other portion that goes through that's ordinances and city attorney. Complaints, such a very general word. I think it depends on exactly what it is that you're looking for specifically. I know with this citizen comment, I know we have Bob is already going to go over and speak with her and try to help address those concerns. And that's normally how we handle it. If someone has a concern, we set up a staff meeting, we discuss with them and go from there.
So I'll make a motion, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but for council support to direct staff to summarize the various complaint process and appeal processes that any resident or any member in our community could follow by the end of August this year.
So I'm just to clarify, because it seems like I would be involved in this to some extent. I understood the gentle lady to complain about an AI identity theft. Are we specific to that or just any complaint?
And any complaint that someone wants to make to the city. So whether it's a legal question or whatever, if someone has an issue with racism, then where do they go? Just, is it the first point of contact the city manager? Is it council? Is it the city attorney? Or how do you split it up? What is, if someone gets a response and it's not responded to, is there an appeal process? Just the basic structure. It can be 2 pages. It could be just a high level overview. And maybe it is, we have no policy in place. Just reach whoever picks up the phone. I mean, that could be as simple as that if there's nothing. I know we have one for employees, I believe.
It's just going to depend. I mean, it's such a wide part of, it could be from a fraud concern, from a racism, discrimination concern to a criminal concern. I mean, there's so many different complaints that we get. And I think the easier part is for a general complaint. Do we have a policy? Absolutely not. For something that's more specific, depending on what it is, absolutely, we might have some. I mean, this is going to be a lot of different works in regards to what happens if it's a code enforcement issue, a citation. Well, there's an appeal process for that. If it's on PD, there's a whole appeal process for that. If it's something specific, it's so broad that it becomes very nebulous to try to sit down and figure out all of these different steps of which parts are we talking about.
Well, but you already gave the high level. If we have that in writing, then I can say if it's a police, it goes to the police. If it goes, so the high level part is.
Knowledge, like if it's a police issue, you call the police. If it's a road issue, you see, click, fix it.
Well, I think where I'm going to with this is if someone in our community has a complaint, a general complaint, we have no process, no policy in place, because I just understood that, which is maybe something that follows from what do we have now and what are we potentially missing?
Okay, he had a motion for a second. Okay, the motion dies. Any other new business? Okay, adjournment, we're gonna have a motion to adjournment. Okay, and all in favor? Aye. Great, right there. Aye.